They will come and try to get your stick, as with a pistol, from all of the clock corners. You know, they will attack you from here. They will attack you from here. They will attack you from behind. They will attack you from over here. And they will attack you in a series of ways. Sometimes in any one of these, two hands on your stick. Two hands on your stick from any one of these corners. Then they have one hand on your stick, one hand hitting you. This is some bad stuff right here. As soon as you start to lose your consciousness, they get your stick. We concern ourselves in our pistol course with the same problem. Very high percentage of time you lose your pistol, they'll kill you with it. If you lose your stick, they're probably going to beat you with it. So it's a serious situation. So you have one hand on the weapon, one hand punching, one hand on the weapon, one hand in some kind of grab. These are the fundamental ways that they come and take your belt carry weapons from you. Also be advised, not only do you have the four corners to worry about, your stick will be taken from up above and down below. If you are climbing stairs or if you're in a ground fight, you have to worry about these two angles also. The mathematics of the grab. The bad guy, if he's in front, he grabs with the same side over here, he grabs with the same side over here. He crosses over here, he crosses over here, he goes with two hands to your one side or two hands to the other side. It's good mathematics on the common frontal grabs. Remember that when you have the stick, you're carrying it, in this case it would be a straight stick in the belt and not an expandable baton, which many security and police officers do. The combination is if you have a pistol here, that would be considered your strong side, you're likely to carry your baton on your weak side. If you're in some countries where law enforcement doesn't carry a pistol, you're in security positions, you may have your stick on this side. But if you're a righty or a lefty, you'll figure out where you're going to carry your stick. If I have the stick on the left side, there's really two ways for a lefty to draw this. A same side grab involves catching the stick this way and usually thrusting it out, leading you at first to a reverse grip. If I'm a lefty and I take my right hand, grab the stick and pull it out, this leads you to a saber grab. So it's just a question of mathematics. Same side grab produces a reverse grip in the start. Crossover grab produces a saber grip at the start. If you're on this side, it's the same mathematics. If I grab at the same side and I pull the stick out of the loop or whatever device it is that's holding the stick, I've brought it out to a reverse grip. I have to transition and change to what I want to do. If I have this righty and I do a lefty crossover, I pull the stick out. Remember, I'm in a saber grip. However, my weak hand is doing all the fine work that you'd want to do with the stick. When you, under stress, open up an expandable baton, you need some arm space and you need some weapon space for this thing to open. If you do a cross draw, this hand can come up for cover. Don't particularly like this one. I want you to be free to do whatever position you need to do. That's just one of options. That's not your main option. That's one of many. Open up this expandable baton so that you have a possibility of having the space to use it to defend yourself. If you have a same side opening, you can open it in a reverse grip manner, and this way you can use it as you wish. But in order to open one of these, you have to have the space to properly issue the momentum to get it open and locked. This belt series I call the Sam series for two reasons. One is it involves a Sam Brown pistol belt kind of situation. And secondly, many of these I learned years ago in Japanese martial arts. These are samurai sword movements where an opponent runs in on a samurai while they're trying to draw their sword out. You know, they draw it out this way, they draw it out this way. And they'll use the handle of their sword to defeat the early grips. So that's why I refer to this as the Sam series. Retention from the belt. We'll take this from the left side or any same side style grip. He drops his hand on my wrist as though it's a handshake. Now, very simply and right away, if he's got a grip on my hand and I'm trying to retain my stick, I can simply let go of my stick and bring my hand up. And now the stick isn't involved in this fight. Just by simply letting go. Many officers, many stick people have an inclination to think this is all one problem here. Oh my God, he's got my stick hand in the middle of a quick draw. But if I let go of the stick and even just step back a bit, we have a simple hand grab, of which many people are skilled in escaping a hand grab from a handshake grip. So basically, by lifting your hand off the weapon, you have taken the weapon out of the struggle. However, if you don't know that, many people just stay in the fight here, you know. Another thing is, you always have the option of hitting the guy. When he has grabbed your stick hand or your stick, this problem has just escalated, and the use of force has just escalated. And if there's any way that you can get a strike in there, that's a good thing. But you have to worry about this. You certainly have to worry about this hand. Remember that, as with pistol disarming, many of the attacks and the disarms and so forth involve him grabbing me, you know. And so suddenly this hand is busy. This is why I am inclined to show these counters with one hand rather than two, because many times this hand is going to be busy in the process of trying to get your stick free of his grip. So here we have this handshake, and what I want to show you is I have a significant amount of handle sticking out. I'm going to take this down around and wrap it, and then with my body step back and eject this downward. If I wish, I can help because I'm zoning away from that fist or that hand over here. I might be able to assist. I'm not doing it now for this film. I want you to see all this, and this hand would just kind of get in the way of it. So we have our guy. He grabs. Worry about the cover. Lift the hand. Practice the escape. He grabs. Worry about covering yourself. The handle goes up. I step back and eject free. Now that I've started out with something that resembles the color and so forth of a police baton, I'm going to switch over to this lighter training stick so that you, the viewer, sees it better and all the manipulations against our backgrounds and so forth. Remember, any old stick is a symbol of whatever weapon you have. When you open an expandable baton, symbolically and effectively, it is this. And so you can train with sticks. I just want to say that people have a bad impression of a Filipino-style training stick. But if you train with these sticks and you hit something, these are likely to break and send a flying dart across the room that's dangerous. If you train with a Filipino-style stick, it sort of shreds and balloons out and is less dangerous to work with. So don't be so quick to make fun of people training with a Filipino stick. It's actually quite practical and safe as opposed to a wooden dowel or something you might get anywhere else. Now let's just take a look at the same thing from the other side. We did it from this side. Remember, 90% of the population is right-handed, but if I'm a street cop in London who doesn't carry a pistol, or a security guard somewhere, and I can't have a pistol, and I'm right-handed, I will have my impact weapon, my best weapon, on my strong side. Here's the handshake grab. You know, I'm covering, maybe I've struck, but I raise this up and eject it off. So you have to practice these on both sides. Taking a look at more or less a same side grab on here and a same side grab on here. What if we have a cross grab to your same side? You know, we worry about that hand, but I need to try to get the handle high enough and you know, to be able to use it. If I grab the stick like this, I don't have any handle, and frankly, I don't know that that happens a lot. As a guy who's carried a stick for many years, military police and as a patrol officer, there was always a significant amount of stick that was exposed from the carry system on the belt. So I was able to always pull it out and have something. Remember, as you learn in SDMS Level 1, that quick draw, I grab, I strike, I go to a two-handed grip, and I strike. Officially, they teach you to strike low to the leg. Survivalists strike much higher. And so you always have some pummel to try to push or strike the enclosing person on you. And so here we have a guy, he is giving me a crosshand grip. Now granted, you are capable of doing a push-pull release. But as I said earlier and warned you, if I take this hand and start doing this, here comes that fist. You know, so I always try to emphasize the hand working alone to get a disarm, to retain the weapon, so that you can protect yourself up here. It's not always going to work, but if you can, I like to develop single retention skills rather than double. Because if I start pulling on this, pushing down on the stick, pulling up here, here comes the punch or the hand attack, and I'm in rough shape. But you can try it if that's what you think is going to happen. I raise this up again, and I zone away from that fist, and I push it off. Now I have put this on my other side, and before he crossed over and grabbed my left side, now he's crossing over and grabbing my attempted quick draw on my right side. I try to do the same thing, eject that off. Remember, I extract my stick, and as we learned in the SDMS stick course, I have to work with this stick in the reverse grip. So typical of many Japanese systems, when we get started, I have a pummel thrust, a pummel hook, a shaft hit and retract, a shaft slash through, or a shaft push, or a pummel push. Any of these tools we learn in the SMS, single-handed portion of the SDMS course, are all tactics that we use to get this guy off of us, you know, to get clear of him. We could push him off, go to the two-handed grip, whatever it is that we need to do next. So here we have right-handed carry, cross grip, trying to cover all the scientific possibilities. Now we have a problem with the cross grab. I'm a righty, got a pistol here or whatever. I reach across to get my stick out. It's a stick situation, not a gun situation, but it's becoming a gun situation because he's come forward to try to catch me. And so here we have a cross grab, pretty much versus a cross grab. I can, if I don't think he's going to punch me, I can do a push-pull release and pull out the stick. If it looks like he's going to punch me, I've got to worry about that. Let's just punch. Boom, I'll pass that over. I raise this up and do a rip out across to get the stick, take it out, take the appropriate action for what happens next. So we have the cross grab. He catches my arm. If you don't worry about this, if his arm is down and he's just talking, and remember there's forward motion in this, you might be able to push this off. If it looks like there's a punch, whoa! Oh, you better get out of the way. take it. Then you may have a chance to use your hand to do a push-pull release. But here's our problem. Don't forget too, he has grabbed my stick, hand, but not my stick. I may raise it up. Now the stick is out of the struggle, and I have your classic grab situations. Early, mid, and late phase problems, circular releases, push-pull releases. He throws that punch. Just because I may have leeway here, unless he's very strong compared to me, I can still block with this. Strike, get your hands off of me. Out comes the stick. So this next exercise is simply going to be, he grabs, cover, raise this up, develop this skill, rip it out. He grabs, raise this up, that punch may come in, and fight on from there. So what's the science on this? If I'm doing the cross grab, he can grab with this hand, or he can grab with this hand. The response could be still the same. You raise your hand. If he grabs over here, you raise your hand. Actually being on the outside of the person is an advantage, but the responses are pretty much the same. We have what we call rip outs, where you can just rip your hand free, and hopefully if you have any strength comparable to his, then you'll be able to do this. And so you have his non-cross grab, his same side grab, and then you have his cross grab versus this problem. If I'm carrying this over here, and I have to cross grab my weapon, he can grab this way, or he can grab this way. What I want to talk about now is more options to the outside. If he has me, I can raise my elbow up over and eject down this way. He's grabbed here. This hand is up for cover. I can't emphasize the fact that you should have a bunch of tricks and responses solving this problem with one hand so that you don't have to eat a punch as this comes in. And so we're here, this is up for cover or possibly attacking. I step over, I place him in that uncomfortable S or V or center lock position. I eject down as I'm drawing out the stick. Here we have a situation where this guy charges forward. It's very common, and he puts two hands on me to prevent the stick from being drawn. And so remember, we say that if you take your hand off the stick and raise it up, you're taking the stick out of the fight. And then perhaps if you can see, I draw the stick out, and I still got my quick draw done, and I've got a stick in my hand to fight him, and he's just busied himself with grabbing the wrong thing. But it's a very common move to try to prevent you from getting your stick. I go for my stick. The opponent latches onto my arms. I just raise this up, take out the stick, and I can use the stick against him. Or he grabs my arms as I'm trying to get the stick. His hands are busy, and I can try to strike him, because this is an escalated situation. So think of the science of that frontal attack. You draw from this side or draw from this side. You cross draw to here, you cross draw to here. He does a same side reach, a crossover reach, or sometimes a two-handed grip reach. And that's solving a lot of frontal problems. Let's take a look at something that he gets you more of a mid-phase style. If he's into the picture and I've got more of my stick out before he can try to grab me. So in other words, I pulled it out this far and he's gotten a hand on the stick. This is a typical situation, hardly ever studied. I grab my stick from the bottom, step away, raise it up, and eject down and try to retain the stick. This is a peculiar position for anyone to think of or practice unless it's really happened to you, and it's happened to me. So this is why I think it's pretty important. Now imagine, if you will, I'm pulling the stick out and he's grabbed it. I grab the bottom and the top. I turn. It's a little awkward here, but let me tell you, you have no choice. And as violently as I can, I make a big turning movement here. I hope that this forearm strikes his forearm and I wrest the stick free. And so just look at this slowly again. I'm here. I pull out this stick and he's got one hand on it. I put the two-handed grip on it right here. I turn up and then bang free, and now I'm free of his grip. Now let's take a look at when the weapon has been pulled out and presented. Not necessarily in use yet, but it's pulled out, and a very typical thing happens. The person grabs the stick. Let's just say in this case it's rather much in the middle. Now, as we learn in police work, many times these people are just making bad decisions, and they see something that they're going to be hit with, and they grab it. It doesn't always mean that that person is Al Capone. It just means that you got a problem. And I'm not making excuses for him, but it's just something to think about. It's very instinctive for your average businessman to grab that which he's about to be hit with to protect himself. So expect it. Expect it. That doesn't mean that when you get your stick back, you can beat the hell out of them. That's not the point. You want to get your stick back and see what is the appropriate thing to do next. And so he's grabbed the stick in the center. I grab the stick in a two-handed Dos Manos grip. I turn away from his fist out to the outside of the body, and I'm going to utilize once again this principle of the S or V or center lock. Look at this very weak grip here, even for the strongest individuals to hold on to. And so by doing this, I'm going to drive that stick in the position that you would see would get you a quick release, but I'm also going to take my forearm and try to hit his forearm in the process and clear his grip. So I'm here, he grabs, I go to the Dos Manos grip, I raise this up and hammer it down, and now I'm ready to do the next thing, whatever that is. Let's take a look at this from this angle. Out comes the stick, he grabs it, I'm worried about that fist, we're going to cover it in a second. I grab, I turn, and I knock this down. Here we have a cross grab. We're doing these, by the way, in the isolation of him not striking yet. We're going to try to cover that in a second. You've presented the weapon, he's grabbed it in the center. Before we went this way, this time we're going to go this way to the outside. I grab the other end in a Dos Manos style grip. I turn. I'm going to take advantage of this awkward position and hit on his forearm and get that. You could really pitch someone off pretty well. In the science of this, he has grabbed same side and then opposite side hand. And so I am going to grab this as I did earlier, step away from that punch, raise this up, take advantage of this weakened joint crank position, pound away on this forearm, get the release, and do the next proper thing. It is not uncommon for someone to grab the stick, and then you will instinctively come up this way. This opens you up to this attack and puts you in the center of his guns. And it's kind of a problem. But that doesn't mean you still can't do the same thing. You have that much further away to step, and you're going to have to really concentrate on this because you have no joint crank in here, and try to bang that loose. The world is not over for you, but it is better that you go this way than you go this way. If you're here, don't say, "Oh, excuse me, sir," and dance around to here. You're going to have to do something here. Perhaps that punch comes in, you're going to have to abandon that two-handed stick grip and pass this out. And I'm going to show you something that I don't know if you're going to catch on to right away without a lot of practice. But this is what we do in the stick fighting world. You punch with the pommel, catch right here, and you get a release. Then you web strike the throat and take them down. That's technical for police to pick up right away, but if you're a stick guy, that's going to become second nature to you. And so if he catches me here, we have this. If he starts to punch me, I pass this off and try to block the punch. And then what I just did was you stun, and then I hit again, raise this up, and set right here. We'll turn around here so we can get a good look at this. And then I am going to violently drive this pommel straight down as I'm also kind of tricepting this thing out of the way, and I've got my stick back for any number of things. If you will look at training mission 6, 7, and 8, you'll start to see solutions for this here. I'm here. I strike into the pelvis. I come around the top of the head. I have the stick wheel throw. You've got to study the follow-up grappling to figure out what you do after some of these situations. And they're called the releasing techniques. That's basically what the nickname for it is. And so if he grabs the center of my stick, we talked about going to the outside and getting. We talked about problems maybe getting stuck on the inside. If he, as is typical, grabs the stick and pulls it down to punch me, I grab my stick and I block the stick. If we're back over here, if he grabs my stick, tries to punch me, I block this. If he tries to kick me, I try to block that while worrying about my head getting too much in range of his punch. And so just to quote Ernesto Presas, he punches, he cannot punch. He kicks, he cannot kick. You'll get your stick back. And that's a good set. You first learn the escape. Next, I'm here. He's got my stick. I see that punch coming. I go to a dos manos grab, and it's like a weightlifting movement. I block the punch. Do a series of those. He grabs your stick. You grab the second part. You lift up. You step down and block any low line kick, and then turn and dynamically get your stick back. It's a nice little set, and it's very practical. Keep in mind that the applications are, he grabs your hand, he goes to punch you. You do a supported block high, and you block this, you step away, and you do the same escape to a grab, only your forearm now becomes the stick, and you escape out. So that application relates directly to hand. Remember, guys come in and they take down your lead arm and they try to punch you over the top of it. And this gives you some reflexive tools to work on in that type of pinch. Your stick is out. He doesn't grab the stick, but he comes down and he grabs your hand. One-handed grab is a very common thing. One of the first things you could do is a hand switch. And unfortunately, not taught often or thought of, but a child will think of this solution. He grabs the hand, you tactically switch hands. A tactical hand switch means more when you say that, doesn't it? A tactical hand switch instead of a hand switch. But think of how tactical and concise relay race runners pass off the baton. When you're in a chaotic fight, there's a lot more motion going on than just what we're practicing here. So, you've got to plant that stick in there and make sure it's in there firmly. Now you've got your stick. If he takes a punch at you, bang, you have that stick to hit with or to push, And so here we have our guy. He grabs, you switch, he throws that punch, and you knock it aside. We're still working on this problem. He has grabbed my hand, so he's got a hand free, I have a hand free. I noticed that if he's not going to punch, this is an interesting one, I grab this with two hands and I can step and rip this free usually. I guide the pommel back with the stick and I rip this free. So this is also, if he throws a punch, you block it and then you can do a rip out and usually put that in such a position as you get to take the stick out. So that is a famous one. Another famous one helps you avoid the punch, but you raise the elbow as though you're going to hit him in the head with your elbow. Come over the top, strike downward on the elbow, and you have the releasing technique, and then you get to do whatever is appropriate for the moment. If you're going to take a headshot on the street with your stick, that better be Hannibal Lecter that you're hitting, because the law does not take kindly to headshots with sticks. You better be a cop that really needs to do it, or a citizen that they'll be more forgiving to you. But you think about those headshots because they really screw a guy up. So here we have, he grabs my hand, here comes this punch, I block it, you have a rip out, or you roll over, you have this release, and take whatever appropriate action. So this is your typical problem. He'll grab the stick, he'll grab your hand with one hand. Now what if he's grabbed your hand and your stick? This is another very common situation, but as they would say in the Philippines, his hands are busy because he's busy wrestling with your stick. So you have an open season here. I'm thinking that a good nose squash, this 15 times harder on the nose, bang, right here, is pretty devastating, and it's very good for your hand. It doesn't hurt you like hitting the skull. If I throw a punch, he's likely to drop that head, and you possibly have some problems on that. More on that unarmed combatives course about punching. But so while his hands are busy, you can strike him, or if you don't, distract him, you do a push-pull here. Step around and do that releasing technique. So you're combining two things that we learned earlier. He's got one hand here, one hand on here. I'm going to solve the problem individually as if this was alone, and individually if that was alone. I'm here, his hands are busy, he's not going to punch me, maybe he'll kick me, I don't know. Distraction, I eject my elbow and forearm down as I grab and push to release this out. I quickly step over to here, I get the dos manos grip, I put this joint under great pressure, step away, I strike against the forearm, and then I get the stick back. Now, also of concern is the person who grabs your stick before you grab your stick. Now, if you just have a stick shoved down in a loop, this is a problem. If you have an expandable baton inside a carrier, it's not that easy to take out if he doesn't know what he was doing. And he'll probably be pinching the whole apparatus, which makes it even harder to remove. But here we have this person, he's got two hands on here, and he's starting to take the stick out. Well, as he starts to yank the stick out, you could catch it, and now you're going to have some kind of a wrestling match, but you could raise this up and release down. And look at this again. It's very simple fundamental movements here. He's grabbing the stick. It might be palm down, or if it's sticking up this way, it may be this way. As he starts to take the stick out, before you even realize it, I'll catch it somewhere on here, but I'm going to get this in a two-handed grip, raise this up as far as I can, kind of putting him in an awkward position, but hey, I'm in an awkward position here too. You may decide to kick at this point, just a quick kick to disrupt him. And we'll show that in a second. But I'm up here, and I'm just going to bang this right over the top and try to get my stick back. In any of these encounters, it's not a bad idea, to get a quick kick into the shin or the knee. It's very fast. You're not imbalanced in a struggle, but it's just boom! Just ow! Get that shot in there, and his mentality drops down, it comes back up, and you're buying an extra second. But you got to practice that quick kick. You think you're fast, but it doesn't. It turns out you're not. But you come and boom! You kick him, and it's a good distraction. So here we have. He's pulling the stick out. I grab it out of desperation. I'm just going to tell you that look at where he is dynamically and look at where I am on the stick. I am controlling more of the stick. If my hands were together, not so. But look at that space. It's kind of a big help. Raise it up and then hammer it down. In that case, Lyndon hit the turf. And so that's how you rescue yourself from that stick takeaway. I have no simple solutions for you that I can translate here on the many different problem directions, because it involves, like all good fighting with a stick, a knife, or a gun, a good basis in a good unarmed combatives course. Because we can't fight our way out of this unless we have a grounding in that. If I'm here and he grabs me and reaches across and grabs my stick, we're talking about a bear hug type of escape from a hold. And if he's not taking my stick out yet, so remember the basics of self-defense. Eyes, throat, groin, top of the feet. No matter where, literally 99% of the time, because there's an odd position or two where you don't have access to one of those particular targets. You usually do. And so by eyes, I mean the shooter's triangle, the eyes and the nose, hitting here. By the throat, I really mean the entire circumference of the neck. That's the windpipe, the carotids, and that electric disconnect that can happen when you hit someone in the back of the neck. The groin target is the groin. Usually it's good, but you can't always count on it. I took a full tie kick into the groin and it didn't faze me one time, to my amazement. So it's just funny. But nonetheless, it's a good target. And the top of the feet around by the shoelaces are another great spot to kick. And so we could spend a career showing you how to escape from these holes, of someone in the front, in the side, in the back, grabbing your stick and your gun and trying to grab you. How is it more of a grab and less than an extraction of the weapon? You're here, you seize the arm as best you can, you attack the eyes, you attack the throat, you attack the groin, and you start attacking the feet and try to freestyle your way out of these problems. Many times you have a traffic stop or a questionable situation and you tell the person to sit on the ground. You can't arrest him yet, you can't handcuff him, you're checking his criminal history, you have multiple people to deal with, and you tell the person to sit because it's going to take him a few extra seconds and physical movement that you could observe for him to get up and run away. So rather than have him standing, it is common for security, military, and police to tell the person to sit on the ground. And so I want to bring this to your attention because this has happened and it's kind of important. The man is sitting there, you're waiting for the radio response, you're guarding him, the main guy's being interviewed, and the officers get kind of cavalier. They're walking around, and many of them do not know that this usually is held by a grommet. It's very strong, into a loop on the belt. If this suspect reaches up and grabs the stick and pulls on your nightstick, you're going down. It is a terrible thing that you can't counter unless you're really prepared for it, or you do something like this. But if you're like this and he pulls, you're probably going to fall, and then the beginning of bad things happen. So I want to make people aware that he may think he's going to get your stick, although it's almost impossible to pull that through. But nonetheless, he may think it and pull as hard as he can, or he may just be smart enough to know that he could pull you right off your feet. But worry about that nightstick and around suspects. And I see time and time again that many enforcement and security people don't know this problem. it's good to experiment with these because you'll come up with unique solutions for yourself. There's no way we can cover all of these and the different angles and possibilities.